Hello and welcome to the Creative Life Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Qureshi, but you can call me Q. Welcome to the Creative Life Podcast, Tarik Trad. How are you, friend?
Hello. I'm well. I'm very happy to be here. I've been doing my homework. I've always listened to your
Good.
podcasts. I'm never good about. I don't have enough focus to be consistent with either podcasts or sports or music. But this week I did my homework. I listened to a lot of your podcast with your other guests, and man, it's just a mutual admiration society, right?
It
I mean,
is. I
it's
only
so
want to talk to
awesome.
people that like me.
Well, I could I don't know,
Hold on
we could
there. Hold
we could
on.
change we could change the tone if you want.
Okay, listen, Tarik, I don't even know how we met. And the thing is, you're one of those people that, you know, I feel like I know you because we know so many people in common, one,
Mhm.
and two, we engage almost daily online. I mean, it's like you're part of my consciousness at this point. Do you remember how we met or who introduced us?
That's a good question. We have a lot of common friends. Brie Loscata, as you know, she's my neighbor. She just lives right around
Oh,
the corner.
I did not know that.
Probably saying her last name wrong. Yeah, we have a lot of common friends, so that's probably how we got connected on social
Yeah,
media. And then you needed some help with one of the organizations that you started, and I offered to design your logo.
that's right. I
And I think
remember
that's how we
now.
connected. And then I think you liked it enough that you took parts of it or you did your own, and that's cool.
Yeah. No, I didn't do my own. I never do my own. I am
Okay.
a terrible designer. Like
Ah,
you do not want me designing anything. Uh okay, well that's fine. Like we don't have to know. I just am always curious how I get connected with people. But it's gotten to this point, and I think I blame social media for this and many other things. That it just sort of happens. Like we're just connected and through repetition over like a decade, you're just a friend and I feel like I know you. I know who your kids are. I've seen you and your wife. I've seen weddings, I've seen birthdays, I've seen all kinds of stuff. So it's nice to actually sit down and have a full length conversation with you.
the pleasure is mine, and it's the same for me. And I have this approach to life in that if you're going to do something, do it.
Yeah.
And so if I'm going to be your friend, I'm going to be your best friend. If I'm going to be your coworker, you're going to love to work with me. If I'm going to be your boss, you're going to love to work for me. If you want to go to a concert with me, I'm going to be the best concert mate you've ever had. I'm going to be loud when it's loud and quiet when it's quiet. I know when to sit, I know when to stand.
Well, that's delightful.
And I try to be that way also as a husband and as a father.
Is this just
You
how
know,
you've always been? Are you just like a nice person? Because if so, wow, that is incredibly rare.
well, I am a middle child,
Oh, say no more.
you know, and I don't need to get into the detail. I did not have the most textbook upbringing, but who does?
Right.
I look at all my people say, "Oh, that guy's weird." Really? Tell me who's normal and
Hmm.
what makes them normal. If you get to know a person, you're going to find out A, they're normal, and B, they're quite unique. People are as unique as their what are those things on your fingers called? Your fingerprints.
Yes.
But people don't. But you have to look, right? So even in social media, and I've stepped way back in the last few years.
Oh,
Social media or even online forums, following bands, following this or Facebook or, with my photography, I'd be all in and it's exhausting, so I've had to figure out how to manage that better. But As far as me, this is me.
Hmm.
I don't mind being the nice guy. I can be that. And I tell my bosses and I tell anybody, Tarik, you're not a type A. I said, look, I'm type A when I need to be. I know how to be type A, but the rest of the time, I don't want to be type A. I'm old enough and I'm experienced enough that I'm good at what I do. I add value, and you're going to like what I do. I mean, that's the way I approach.
I like that. I like that. It's confident, but it's not arrogant. And that's how it should be. And the other thing I was going to say is that you also, in addition to being a photographer slash artist, are a digital strategist.
Hmm.
So you like, I know because I was in digital marketing for so long. You can get super, like, it can take over your whole life. You have to
Yes,
have these boundaries. And so I think, for a long time, when the internet was new and even when it was not new, we were all just so like obsessed like I was living on my devices and I was plugged in constantly. And I would say in the last 3 or 4 years, I've started to do the same thing that you're doing or have done, which is to step away and make those boundaries and like really figure out what has value for me and what doesn't. And I think that's essential. And I say this because one, you brought it up, but two, it's a refrain I hear from a lot of artists, writers, musicians, where they want to be everywhere, right? They want to market themselves. And unfortunately, in this day and age, if you are going to put yourself out there, you kind of have to be a marketing person, but you have to know where to draw that line because it can literally eat up all your time and energy, and then you don't have anything to create from. And it sucks.
absolutely. And I struggle with that, and especially, the cobbler's children don't have shoes, right?
Uh huh.
I have my own organization. I mean, I work for a company, and I do that
Yeah.
work. I do that work. I'm good at that, right?
Yeah.
Taking that home to do my project, I'm the worst marketer in the world.
Yeah. I
Um,
know.
and to be, at work, especially for social media, it's consistency, right?
Yep. Yep.
Messaging, branding, consistency.
Yep.
Um, I'm I struggle. I struggle with it,
Yeah.
and I do see with Focus Relief, that's my organization, that when I'm consistent with my messaging and whatnot, I have a lot of sales because people see that I'm there. Oh, you're there. Oh, he's there. Because people need that reminder.
It's true. It's true. It's kind of a drag because the thing is, it is a job, right? Like it's a job, and the entire time I was doing it, working in digital media, I felt like I was constantly trying to prove my value, right? That
Mm.
people were like, you anyone could be on Facebook, anyone could be on Twitter. Why, what we don't need to pay you. Like that kind of thing. And then seeing the results for myself and or lack thereof, I know that it's a job. I know that it matters to do it right. And yeah, you're right. It sucks. It sucks that like you have to have a job and then do that same job for yourself and then find time to do your art. And honestly, I've just given up on it. Like I do it, but I keep it at a minimum and I've had to rechannel all my energy into writing because I mean it's too disruptive. It's too disruptive to my creative flow. So,
Yeah, yeah, and what you'll find, and what you're going to find right now, is that I have a preface. I preface everything before I say everything, and I don't know why I do that, but I've done it. I mean, this is part of being a storyteller, right? This is
uh-huh.
so people will tell you that I have an expression for everything, and in this particular case, whether it's for you or me or my kids, one of my favorite is a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Ah, yeah. I've heard this.
Between that and if you want something done, give it to a busy person, those two things have helped me to get things accomplished, to move forward. Because if you look back, you're getting left behind.
Hmm.
And, don't get too far ahead of yourself either. Now I'm getting the relationship advice, but
This is some hard dad wisdom, man, that you're laying on me right now.
oh, I've got a million of them. And they're, I don't call them dadisms either. They're Tarikisms are what they
Okay,
are,
okay,
but
okay.
I get quoted at work all the time. Well, Tarik would say, do it right, not fast.
I like it. I like it. Um, I want to talk to you about focus relief first, and then I want to talk to you a little bit about just your creative history and your creative process. You how long have you been doing focus relief? I seem to remember when you started it up,
We
and it feels like it
started,
was 5 or 6 years ago.
yeah, yeah, we started in 2018. And what happened was, as a photographer, I was always giving my photography away, right? If you liked my
Uh-huh.
work, I said, here you go, take it. But I didn't find that very fulfilling. And I have a lot of friends who are able to serve with, whether you call it their God-given abilities or their education or their training or whatever. So like if you're a doctor, a community activist, whatever, people are giving back. And I was brought up in that type of community here in Los Angeles. But I wasn't finding anything fulfilling. And then in 2017, I went to Columbia, Missouri to photograph the Great American Solar Eclipse. It had been, I'd never gone on trips like this, maybe, to the mountains or something like this, but this was full on. I had to go to Dallas for a conference for work. That started on a Tuesday. I asked my boss, can I take off that Monday? Because I have to fly anyways. Can I go to Missouri? She goes, yeah, sure.
Huh.
So
Wow.
I brought 50 pounds of camera gear,
Wow.
rented a car, and luckily a friend of mine's brother was in Columbia, so we stayed at his house, and I photographed the eclipse. The first time I've ever done anything like that. And then
Hmm.
suddenly, when I was sharing these images on social media, my friends wanted to buy it. I said, hmm. And then at the same time, there were hurricanes going on in Houston, Florida, and Puerto Rico. I think you might have remembered that. It was really bad.
That's right.
So I thought maybe I can sell my photos and help people, give the disaster relief or something. So I put together this nice collage photo of the eclipse. I told my friends, look, I'm going to sell limited edition. I'm going to sign each one of these, and 100% of the profits are going to go to disaster relief. And then before I knew it, in just a few weeks, we sold out. And with the money donated to food banks, we were able to feed 60 people 3 meals a day for an entire month.
Wow. And that's your first project.
And that was my first project. So,
That's amazing.
I was blown away by, I mean, $2,000 is not a lot of money. But if you go through the organization like a food bank, a community food bank, they know between donations and volunteers, the dollar goes very far.
Sure. Economy of what is it called?
Economy of
Uh,
scale.
yeah, exactly.
So it's not a lot of money, but you better believe. I mean, just look at the numbers. You're making a difference to at least one person, right? They don't have to
Yeah,
worry about where their next meal is going to come from.
yeah.
So my wife and I explored ideas. How can I use my photography? She wanted to wait until I retired. I said, no, 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 no. God is telling me, here is your talent. This is your skill. Make your passion and turn it into your purpose, right? Or make your purpose be your passion. That's my slogan now, anyways. So she said, okay, we can do this part time while you work full time. Yeah, I can do this. So that happened. And then we went up to Carmel, California. It's like a little boutique area.
Oh, yeah.
I was trying to see how I could sell my photos. I wanted to make them big, big and glorious, sell them for $10,000. And I found there's a lot of crap that sells for $10,000, literally a lot of crap.
Yeah. Yep.
And then I went to one of the photo galleries, photo studios there, where I met who's now my good friend, Robert Salisbury Knight. And I'm looking at his photography and it's just amazing. I go, "Ah, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to do it." And then his assistant said, I was looking at some photos of Antarctica, and she says, "Oh, he's taking people to Antarctica, photographers of Antarctica. He has an opening. Do you want to go?" I said, "What?"
Ugh.
And so Robert was going to come in later in the day, and my wife and I went to lunch, and she says, "You haven't mentioned that once." I said, "Well, it'd be a nice trip, but we got one kid's getting married, the other one was heading to medical school.
Uh-huh.
Um, we don't have the money." And she goes, "You're not seeing the big picture here."
Oh, good for
So
her.
she said, because I always thought if I brought it up, she would absolutely say no, absolutely,
I
without a
see.
doubt.
I see. I see.
But I was wrong. She saw the big picture, and she said, "First of all, how many people do you know that have been to Antarctica?" I said, "Zero, exactly. Think of all the unique photos that you can take and you can sell, where all the money's going to go to community food banks." I said, "Oh my God, this woman is right." In fact, she ended up by saying, "We can't afford not to do this." And so we found money from from the medical school account. Sorry, Omar. Um, and we did the trip, and the rest is history.
Oh, did
So
she
that
go with you?
no, she hates the cold. She absolutely hates the cold. And it's funny because she lived in Denver for 4 years, and she would tell you the story. She didn't walk uphill both ways in the snow barefoot, but she said she would wear a sweater and walk in the snow. It wasn't. It was she could deal with it. Now she's in California where the house has to be on blasting on the heater during the winter if
Yeah.
it's 70 something. Like, what are you doing? There's a sauna in here. So no, she did not want to go to Antarctica.
Yeah. I think the moral of this entire story, if I'm hearing you right, is that you should listen to your wife more often. Because she seems like a really smart person.
She's very smart.
Hmm.
She has a master's degree in electrical engineering. She's, at the top of her field in what she does. I mean, she's just brilliant.
Maybe I need to have her on my podcast.
She would be a great interview, but she hates
I'll bet.
attention of any kind.
It sounds like I feel like this is the thing of couples, is that's how mine is too. He doesn't want to be in the front of anything. But he's a rock. Like he's not going to be, you know, messed around with. So, okay. All right. Back to the subject at hand. So you went to Antarctica and you took some spectacular photos. I mean, just gorgeous. Some of the ice that you took pictures of, the colors, the blues. And of course, you do a lot of wildlife photography, so you got some really cool looking penguin photos and I mean just all the things. And your photography is, and I will say just for the record, amazing. Like it's not just, you know, these days we all have a camera on our phone. We're all taking pictures. I look at pictures all day on Instagram. Everyone's always looking at pictures. Your photos are gorgeous. They're detailed, they're vibrant, they're crisp. There's lots of action in them. They feel alive and they are just beautiful compositions. What did you take away from that first trip to Antarctica? And then how did that kind of set you up for, I mean, at that point, had you already started focus relief?
First of all, thank you for those kind words. It's the 10,000 hours story.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to
Mm-hmm.
get good at something, I've been taking photography. I've been doing photography for quite a long time, and people ask me, how do you get good? I said, just take pictures. Just keep taking pictures. Part of what helps me a lot is that being a designer trained, I have a bachelor's in graphic design, so I'm formally
Uh,
trained to be a
yeah.
designer. I have an eye for design, and I use that eye in my photography. And when I used to before I did landscape photography, I did sports photography. And the big thing about sports photography is anticipation.
Ah, yeah. Yep.
Okay. You just can't see something happen and take a picture. You have to sit there and stare at it and wait till it happens. It's the same with nature. There are some pictures. I remember me and my friend Andrew, we're in Antarctica and we're just laying down waiting for that seal to move. you know, probably half an hour. We're laying on these rocks or in the ice, just laying down, waiting for it to move. And finally, it moved. It yawned. It got some drool on its mouth, and it looks like the most dramatic picture of this apex predator. This is a leopard seal that is terrifying. But all it's doing is yawning. But it sat there with its eyes closed for 30 minutes. We just waited for it. So I'm not trying to, tell you my secrets, but a lot of it is that it's preparation and it's also just anticipation.
Yeah. I interviewed a friend of mine, Michael Molly, a few episodes ago, who's also a photographer, but he does concert photography. And he
Hmm.
said something very similar. He said you have to you kind of get into a, I don't know, it's almost like this state, and you get really focused, and then you start to anticipate the things that are coming, and then that's where you get your best captures. And I think that that sounds exactly like what you're doing here. You have to have the
Yeah.
patience, and you have to have the intensity and the focus, and you have to be ready, and then when it happens, you're there for it.
Yep. And sometimes it doesn't work out, but you know, the, you can't help it. That's out of your control.
Yeah. And
I
but when
always
it
have.
does, wow.
Yes, yes. And as a person of faith, people just say, oh, prayer should be enough. Well, no, there has to be some action.
Uh-huh.
You have to trust in God, but do the work. He's not just not going to come to you. So for Antarctica, I knew Antarctica, the trip was going to come, but I insisted on starting Focus Relief before then so that I could walk it up, right, from a marketing perspective.
Uh-huh. Oh, you see, you're smart. You're strategic about this.
Well, I tried to be, but then I came to this realization. You could go, and it's quite a trek. It took 24 hours just to get to the tip of South America, right? It was exhausting, right? And
Yeah.
and then you're waiting. You spend a day to get rested, and then you're waiting for clearance to fly into, or if you're taking a boat, take a boat to get into the Antarctic Peninsula. There's a chance you might not go. The weather might be
Mm.
bad. So your trip could be delayed, it could be postponed, it could be canceled altogether.
Oh
So
man.
I came to the conclusion of I can't tell anybody about this because if I tell the world and it doesn't happen, A, they're not going to believe me, and two, they're going to think I'm an idiot. Why did you tell people about this? So I left it. I just told immediate family, and I got clearance from my boss because a little over 2 weeks I was gone, and I had to tell people, I had to give some people that to cover me, say, look, I'm not going to be here. Well, where are you going? I can't tell you. Um, so that,
Maybe they thought you were a spy. Maybe you're undercover.
well, I got away with it. Starts with an A and ends with an A. Okay, America, Angola, Arabia, America, you know, Alaska,
Yeah.
so that held them off for a while. But I knew about Antarctica. We started Focus Relief on purpose before the trip, but it didn't matter because I didn't tell anybody until I got back. And then I slowly was just trying to figure out what the hell happened to me because this trip was life changing. I
Wow.
couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't stop talking about it. And I think one of the things that was helpful, and I did the same because I recently got back from the Galapagos Islands for a similar expedition.
Yes. Yes.
I think the key was the lack of preparation, lack of not preparation. I had to know what to bring, right? So
Hmm.
camera gear, clothing, whatever. Um, that's another story altogether as well. Um, but I did not read any books on Antarctica.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
I wanted to experience it through my eyes and my emotions. not someone else's. And as I say this to you, right now I am tearing up because the impact of seeing things through these eyes that I did not think existed on this planet was life changing.
Wow.
I could not stop thinking or talking about Antarctica for at least 2 years. Have you ever watched The Big Bang Theory TV show?
Yeah, yeah. I've watched some
There's
episodes.
there's a character, Howard Wolowitz, who went to the International Space Station.
Okay, yeah.
And when he got back, he couldn't shut up talking about it for his friend, and he would take any reference of anything and make it turn into, oh, I was an astronaut. That
Right.
was me. I couldn't shut up. I couldn't stop talking about it. I couldn't reference anything without bringing Antarctica into it. That's how big an effect it had on me. And I was lucky enough that a couple of places said they wanted me to do a presentation on Antarctica.
Hmm.
The first
Just
was
like
when I,
local community places or
yeah. First it was the Islamic Center of Southern California. They wanted me to go, so that was the
oh
first place I
nice.
did it. And then the schools, and then community, other outside of religion wanted me to do it. Then private homes. But when I came home, I had 7,000 photos and numerous videos. And my wife said, "Okay, you're home. You have 2 weeks to put together a slideshow for my dad. It's his birthday."
Oh,
So I threw all these photos together and made this presentation, and the family loved it. It was like 45 minutes. They loved it. And so I had this core of photos. I didn't even go through everything. That was the funny part. Okay, that'll work. 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 Right?
wow.
It wasn't until COVID, when I had time, where I actually went through everything again.
Yeah, that was actually what I was going to ask you next is like how cuz on your website you have curated from all of these different I guess trips or just you know points in time when you're doing these different things. You have some that are botanical with birds, you have some butterfly ones, you have Antarctica, you have the Galapagos, you have some of LA, but there's not a ton of them. They're very you can tell they've been chosen carefully. So how do you do that? Cuz I know photographers take a lot of photos.
Yeah, you don't see the stinkers, do you?
No, but also what makes it how do you decide? Cuz I'm sure these
Yeah.
are not the only good ones that you've taken either.
No, in fact, it can be argued that the first ones I shared of Antarctica were stinkers because nobody bought them. The very first ones I put out, it was crickets. Like, what is going on here? And I had my neighbors across the street, Mark and Margaret. They're great. Margaret was my editor of my book, and Mark was he doesn't call himself an editor, but he was proofreading, and they're wonderful people. I had them come over. I said, "Look, I got all these photos. Can you help me go through them?" And they said, "Yeah,
Wow.
sure." It was they had time, and they liked everything. I said, "That's not helpful. That's really not helpful." Um, so I went on my gut on some things, and it's I think Bruce Springsteen said it. He said, "Being an artist, it requires having absolute confidence in yourself, and then doubting everything that you do."
That's so accurate.
And that was me. I was like, I love this, but no one else is going to love that. In fact, when I tell people, one of my favorite things is footprints in the snow. I have a whole
Mm.
collection of footprints in the snow that Dahlia hates. She just hates. No, she had me take it off the website. No one's going to like that except you. It's okay. Now I
Wow.
know. So that's
Are
good
you
advice.
surprised? Are you surprised by what people choose or what's most popular?
Yes, I am shocked.
Wow,
I'm
interesting.
really shocked.
Huh.
One of Probably the best selling thing on my website, besides the sunset in Hawaii, is what I call it, the potpourri. It was a picture I took of the frozen ground in Virginia, where you see all these colors and this ice. And I said, there's something there, but we only sell a limited edition. I sell 25 of each picture. Once I sell
Oh,
25 of that
wow.
picture, that's it. It's done. And some are sold out, so you can't get any more. Like the eclipse photos, that's gone. But that one, I go, I don't get it. But it's very popular, and it's almost sold it. I got a couple of them. I can sell 3 of them. I print each thing individually to size, so but I think I have like 3 or 4 spots left for that picture, and then it's gone. So that
Huh.
one always surprised me. So yeah, that happens.
Interesting. Yeah,
So how do I pick the pictures? Um,
yeah.
I try to think what people like. Like people like penguins, for Antarctica. But if once I did that show on Antarctica, right? I call it the Way South. I did that for a year up until COVID. I did it all over California. Either camps, schools, churches, mosques, community centers, private homes, and then I was going to work back and forth in Virginia. I have an office in the D.C. area. Work wanted me to do the presentation. Other people in the Muslim community who I know who live there, they said, "Okay, you got to go to so and so's house." Thank you, Marcia. So I've done it, wherever. And then I said, you pay my way. I don't charge anything for the show, right? I
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
loved doing it because it was so cathartic. It was
Mhm.
just, and I would still. There'd come points in the show, and I can tell you this in particular. There was a point in Antarctica where, and I won't get into the details. But the captain, we were on a ship that went different places. He said, "Okay, we're going to stop and have dinner here because the sun is going to set and then it's going to rise behind the same mountain." I go, "What?"
Whoa.
He goes, "Yeah, because the sun doesn't go up and down at the bottom of the world. It's like a circle, and then
Hmm.
so the sun comes down at an angle. And this was December. This is January, so there was 23 hours of daylight at that time. We were inside the Antarctic Circle, so um, if we were there on December 21st, it would have been 24 hours of daylight. But when we were there, it was 23 hours. So you'd see the sun come down. It'd come down at an angle. It would just break the sunset, and then an hour later, it's up again. But it's in a small area.
Hmm.
And every time I thought about that or talked about that, I would just well up because it was just so stunning, so unusual, so unearth-like to see something like that.
Wow.
So I got that going for me.
Yeah. I'm one of those to me adventure is the thing. Like I love adventure. I love the idea of being an explorer. When I was a kid, I wanted to be Indiana Jones. I mean, the idea of adventures is so appealing to me. And the fact that you are able to incorporate that into your art, to go have these adventures, take these marvelous photos of things that I probably will never get to see in my lifetime, right? The photos that you took, especially of the iguanas, are astonishing. The
Mm.
Galapagos iguanas, they're astonishing. They are so beautiful and so like majestic. Like they're amazing. And yeah, I like reptiles anyway, but like I'm never going to go to the Galapagos. It's just not, I mean, maybe, but never really feasibly. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate that somebody took it upon themselves to go there and capture these beautiful images and that they're available and that, there's a lot of care and thought that are put into them. And so I don't know. I mean, I want to talk a little bit about your kind of photography journey because clearly you are a person who's been doing this for a long time and you talked about the 10,000 hours. But how did you start out with photography? And did you ever foresee yourself being this kind of globe-trotting photography guy or what?
Wow. Okay, can I start backwards a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I am. My questions are terrible. They're like
No,
8-part questions. So
no, no, no,
please
no.
go ahead.
This is good. But you triggered something um, about Galapagos, and I have to tell you about
Oh,
Galapagos.
yes,
And
please.
when I did the Way South tour, I call it a tour, my shows. People
Hmm.
always say, "Okay, Tarik, you've been to Antarctica. What's next?" I say, "Well, the joke was wherever my wife says." Um, but the reality was those types of expeditions are very expensive.
Yeah, yeah,
So I learned to say whenever I find a sponsor, okay, and then I just keep on moving. A family I met in Antarctica, they were they were part of they weren't part of our photography group, but they were on the ship with it. There were some um, ecotourists as well as the photographers and naturalists and things like that. They learned what I was doing with focus relief, and then eventually they saw the book. The book came out, and there's
yeah.
and they saw what we did with the book. We made 250 copies of the book. It's a coffee table book, spared no expense. I like speaking of Jurassic Park. Um,
Yes.
and 100% of the proceeds went to community food banks. Again, when I told the LA Regional Food Bank what we were doing, they said, "Great, we have a matching sponsor for you, a matching donor." I said, "Oh, great." So we were able to provide 80,000 meals through the LA Regional Food Bank, which is the number
Wow.
one food insecure county in the country, Los Angeles County. The second is in Northern Virginia.
Hmm.
We're not talking rural Virginia. We're talking, this isn't Appalachia. We're talking Fairfax County, Virginia.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So they saw what we were doing. They liked what we're doing. They said, Tarik, we're going to the Galapagos Islands, the three of us of this family. They want to stay anonymous. They said, because we're three, we have to pay for the fourth spot. The family agreed that they want you to come along with us.
Whoa.
We're going to pay for everything. Just take care of the airfare, which was not very much. You're under no obligation to do a book. You're under no obligation to do anything. We just want to be around you. And I was like, wow, wow. And so I told Dahlia about this. She goes, "What's the catch?"
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I said they even offered to finance the book if we wanted to do a Galapagos book. So that because I had to finance our book through my 401k,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
luckily we paid off the loan, but so the Galapagos. Thank you for the nice comments on the iguanas. I did not read up on the Galapagos before we went, right? Just like Antarctica. I didn't want that. I wanted to see it through my eyes and my emotions. The Galapagos turns out, if you can imagine Disneyland with wild animals, okay?
Wow.
Oh, there's a marine iguana. You want to take my picture? How close do you want to get? And how should I pose?
Really?
I am not lying. This was everywhere I went. Oh, I'm a blue footed booby. You want to take a video of me while I'm dancing in a mating dance? Okay. Is this a good angle? Everywhere I went. Oh, look, there's an island. It looks like a giant tortoise. How does that happen? And I mean, I did have some bad luck sometimes because what we call the golden hour of photography. It's the hour before and after sunset and the before
Hmm.
and after sunrise, right? It's the best lighting time. That's when you want to do your photography. In the
Hmm.
Galapagos, that's when the times when where heat met humidity, and several times the inside lenses of the inside glass in my lenses would fog up, and I have a
Wow.
thousand pictures of these fantastic pictures of green iguanas on top of lava with waves crashing in the background, but it's all a fog. You can't see
Oh
them.
man.
You can't see them. I mean, my friend Andrew, he said, "Here, give it to me. I've got this fancy software." He goes, "No." You can't do anything with it. So I could live with that. And luckily, um, my iPhone was relatively new, iPhone 14. It shoots in RAW. It shoots in 48 megapixels. There's wide angle and it's got so I was able to use in a in a what's the right word, in a crutch,
Clutch.
in a clutch. There you go. Um, in a pinch, in a cinch, I was able to use my iPhone at times when I could not use my very expensive photography equipment.
Wow.
And if and when a book should come out, I'm trying to do it, but it's just I got to get into it. Um, I have photos, I have videos, and I have a show ready to go. Um, just waiting for people to say, Tarik, can you present on the Galapagos for us? Yeah, I'm ready. I got it. So that
Mm.
show is called At Latitude Zero. So from the way south for Antarctica or at latitude zero, because the Galapagos are on the equator. That's latitude zero. So um, I've always loved taking pictures, even when I was younger. My parents had these little Kodak Instamatics, right? And I would
Yeah,
borrow.
yeah.
I would take pictures all the time. When I was in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wouldn't say I wasn't good in math. I just didn't apply myself to math like I should have. But I always felt like I was going to be an artist of some kind. And I love photography. So I ended up taking honors photography in high school. So I actually got like AP credit for doing something that I really, really loved. And that was a good experience that I was able to continue in college. We had a very good photography program at Woodbury University, a small college in downtown LA at the time. So I was able to continue that path. And then after I graduated from college, all my friends were going to backpack across Europe. I did not have money for that. I, I barely had enough money, and I was lucky, blessed enough to get a volunteer position as a backcountry ranger in Yosemite. And I had to borrow a friend's camera, but I took that with me everywhere I went. And I have some pretty nice photos on film somewhere in the garage. Or so I continued photography up until probably I got married, and then kids, and I kind of put it away. And then I think in 2004 we took the family to on an Alaska cruise. And I said, you know what? I need to start photography again. And I got one of the first digital cameras from Canon. It's only 10 megapixel, but it took some really nice pictures. And it was at that point I started picking up the camera again, and everywhere I went, whether it was just a park or what have you, I'd try to find something to shoot. And this is important, not take time away from my family, because
Yeah.
to me that was the most important thing, because I knew that period of time would go by very quickly. And so when my boys got into water polo, you could see me on the pool deck of every pool across Southern California, from Santa Barbara to San Diego, whatever weekend, wherever we were that weekend. I was there watching my kids play water polo while photographing them. And this is where I learned my anticipation and dealing with the elements, because I'm getting splashed and whatnot. But as I did that more, I got better at it. I bought better equipment, and I got published a few times in the Water Polo magazine.
Oh, cool.
So, and all the pictures I took were not just of my kids; they were of all the kids. So I'd say, okay, I put them online. I send an email to the parent. Have at it. They're yours. Take whatever you want.
Wow, they I hope they were grateful.
I think they were very grateful, especially when there were other people that were charging, and there were professional
Yeah.
photographers there, especially for the Junior Olympics, that would charge you $10 a photo,
Yeah. Right.
and mine were as good and free. So I consider that service in a way,
Sure.
because again, photography was still is to this day, is very therapeutic for me. There was something good in coming out, but that wasn't really fulfilling. But I think what we talked about, um, once we started Focus Relief, that's when I really was able to find my purpose.
That's so interesting. And how old were you when that happened? When you started Focus Relief?
Let's see.
You don't have to be exact, but you were in your 40s at least, right?
I think I just turned 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm interested in that because, you know, I just turned 50, and I talk to a lot of people who, you know, they have like my philosophy is everyone is an artist. Everyone has this creative calling, even if they're not going to be quote unquote professional or do it full time. It's really important to nurture that. But so many people, myself included, really put those things on the back burner. You know, when they were younger, when their kids were young, that kind of stuff. And I'm really interested in stories about people who get to a certain age and then decide to reclaim that and sort of pursue it more seriously. I actually think it's one of the coolest things about getting older is that you do have the time and the energy and, frankly, the money at
Hmm.
times to
Yep.
devote to it,
Yep.
right?
Absolutely.
Um, and I hope, you know, I don't know that my parents' generation did this, but I see it a lot in my generation. And I hope that this is something that is sort of done now where, you know, you don't hit 50 and your life is over, right? That's when the fun stuff can start.
Hmm.
that you and and I want to see people who become very successful in their 50s, because like the stuff that you're doing, it's not amateur stuff. Like you're doing art, high quality art. It's not like you're just some schmuck that like bought a $3,000 camera and is like, I'm going to be a photographer. No, no, you are a photographer, right? It's
Hmm.
just that it wasn't something that you were able to do with the kind of attention, I guess, whatever. You just didn't have the ability to do it at a certain point. And rather than just give up on it, you waited, and now you're able to do it. And I think that's really cool. I actually think that's really cool. And I wish everybody would do something similar, is when they get to a certain point in life when they have more freedom, they don't look at themselves as like, you know, what's the point? I'm old, I'm washed up, whatever. They look at it as an opportunity. I have a friend that just started quilting this past year, and has just taken to it. She's been an artist. I mean, she was an artist before, but yeah, she took up this new art form and is just thriving in it. And I think that's beautiful. I love to see people just flourishing after 50.
I'm enjoying it. It's
Clearly.
you know it you know you don't get out of bed the same way when you're in your 50s as you do in your 30s.
I don't know
But
what you're talking about,
I'm not,
Tarik.
I don't know either. Um, but like I said earlier, I was raised in a community of service, right, where people, that's what they did.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I thought I won't say I thought my wife was of that same vein. She is of that same vein, right? But
Hmm.
I started, okay, I'm going to volunteer on this board and this board and this board and this board and this board. And she said, you know, you're spending a lot of time away from us. I said, well, this is part of the cause, right? Or she said, well, even in Islam, she said the Prophet, peace be upon him, he made time for this and he made time for that. And family is one of those things that you need to make time for. So
Mm.
that was a wake up call for me in that, well, damn it, I want to give, but damn it, she's 100% right.
Uh-huh.
Right. So, I put a lot of things on the shelf and I'm glad I did because I didn't want to miss my kids growing up,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we had like I had the early shift. I take the kids to school. She had the early shift I mean, she brought them home from school. Right. And so
Hmm.
I had such a blast. I mean, it's, you think about it, getting your kids up, getting them dressed, getting them fed, getting their lunches and getting them to school is a pain. Right. I didn't pause there, did I?
Oh, 100%. I was just to confirm this week school started again. in Austin.
Hmm.
And I was literally, I wrote about it the other morning in my journal. I was like, I just remember those days of just like rushing around like a maniac trying to get everybody out the door. And the kids are miserable and everybody's tired and everybody's grumpy and I'm packing lunches and it was hell. And I'm so glad that's over. On the other hand, I'm glad I could have been there for it. You know, it's not my kids' fault that society is the way that it is, but yeah. Wow, that was a lot of work.
It,
A
it,
lot of work.
yeah, no, it was, and I look back at it, I try to make some fun with it. I used to like we used to have the sack lunches for the kids, right? I used to draw on the bags
Aw.
like something like not every day, but or I'd try to put a note in their bag with this post-it. I remember my oldest son is Yusuf, and we
Mm-hmm.
used to put the drink in the lunch that was didn't have to be refrigerated, right? So like Yoo-hoo. So
Uh-huh.
so I drew a picture on his lunch bag of a Yoo-hoo, but I put his name instead of Yoo-hoo. I put Yusuf.
Aw.
It was just so much fun. I mean, but that was so much work. That was so much work. But you know what? I knew, I knew that the time that your kids that you have their attention is short, right? Not everybody tells you this. I figured this out from others.
Uh-huh.
I cherished those moments because I knew that they would go.
Yeah.
And I think that made us a stronger, closer family. We're a very close family.
You are. You are. Yeah, and I mean I think that's great. You know, I mean when you have kids, you're making a commitment, right? You're making a commitment to be there for them and to
Hmm.
raise them and to do right by them. But that doesn't mean that you give up being an individual or an artist. And I think it was I think it was Oprah or somebody said this. They said you can have it all, just not all at the same time.
That's
Right?
great.
And that really
Um,
stuck with me. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's true. And now
I'm
that I
writing that
have the
down.
time, oh god.
Well,
Are you gonna turn that into a Tarikism?
Tarik. Well, I shouldn't write it down. I should just listen to the podcast later and then write it down.
Oh yes, yes. But yeah, I'm totally done with that. But I think it's really great that that you are doing it now. And I think, you know, I think you're so talented, Tarik. I really do. And I'm really pleased to have had this opportunity to talk to you on the podcast. And I hope everyone will go and admire your work, support Focus Relief, and in so doing, support a really great cause, which is, you know, feeding people who are hungry, because we live in America and that just should not be. And pick up some beautiful art for your home too, because I mean, it's great stuff. It really is. I mean, I wouldn't. I always feel like when I talk to my friends and I give them compliments that they think, oh, you know, you're just being nice. But no, I mean it. I think your work is fantastic.
Well, thank you. I do mean that very much. I'm very grateful for that. And as an artist, and I know that we've talked about this online. We all have our own struggle with anxiety or
Yeah.
depression or
Yep.
what am I doing with my life? Or it's hard, and we all need to find that outlet. Find your outlet, find your purpose, find your passion,
Yeah.
and do it. But I haven't. I don't want to say my life is rosy and perfect and all that stuff. I got my struggles like everybody else. you should. I
Yeah.
couldn't travel before my anxiety was so bad. I had to figure out how to deal with it, and I did. Um,
Wow.
but this has been great. This has been great. Thank you for the opportunity. We should do this again.
Let's do. Next time you go on an adventure, come back and we'll talk about it. And I'm going to put in the show notes, I'm going to put links to all your stuff. Is there any kind of parting wisdom you'd like to give to the vast listening audience this evening?
As a storyteller, and I just realized in the last few years that I'm a storyteller, whether it's the written word or spoken. But don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. It's o-
Hmm.
it's okay to exaggerate. It's okay to stretch it out a little bit because a no one's going to care. But if it makes a story a little bit more interesting or draws you in or makes you laugh, why not?
It's great advice, sir.
Yeah, I'm a big
And
fat
on
liar.
that note, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. You're one of the good ones, Tarik. I mean
Oh,
it.
I'm trying, and I think that's what matters. You try. Just keep trying, people.
100%.
Keep trying.
Yeah.
Don't quit. Keep trying. Keep trying. Keep trying. Keep trying. Keep trying. Keep
Yeah.
trying. And when you run out of rope, tie a knot.
Beautiful. All right, friend. Come again, and I am so pleased to have had some time with you this evening.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much for having me.